Welcome to Chapter 9. So the first exercises we are going to do is using dynamic labels. Dynamic labels are easy to work with because they behave as a group. When you turn them on or off, change their symbol, or change the attribute value they express, it affects all the labels in the layer. The drawback to dynamic labeling is that ArcMap doesn't always put the labels where you want them. For this reason, labels are often converted to annotation in the late stages of map production. So the composition ArcMap chooses for dynamic labels depends on many factors, including the size of your application window. Your results may look slightly different from the graphics in the exercises for this video. For labeling, it is best to maximize your ArcMap window if possible. So now we're going to click exercise 09A, and this map document will show the city, have the default labels, but we need some other additional label to make the map more helpful. Now first we're going to label the state of Florida and its water features. In the table of contents, so now we don't need the layout, and we can go to data view. And we're going to right-click the southeast layer, and we're going to label feature, and we can just zoom to layer. And now we can see Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia, South Carolina, and Florida is highlighted. So each feature in the layer is labeled. But because this map shows only one state, you see only one label for Florida. In the center of the map display, ArcMap tries to put the labels in the center for each polygon. So now we're going to change the font and color of the label. So now we're going to open the properties for southeast layer, and we're going to click the label tag. So in previous videos, we work on symbology, so that's why we're still on symbology tab. Now we're going to switch to label. Here we're going, earlier we right click on it and we set the table label features this layer, and now we're going to change more in this layer. So in the text string frame, the label field is show which field in the attribute label is being used for labels. Now, here we have a state name, that's why we see Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, and Florida. So that's their state name for the polygons. So below this you see the current label symbology. The label for this layer are drawn in a point, that's the font, and black area. And next we're going to click the color chip, so the color palette to change into 20% gray. In the text box frame, in the size, we're going to replace 8 into 14. And then we're going to click the symbol button, and we're going to choose the edit symbology. And now we're going to see the property dialog editor. On the editor dialog box, we're going to click the formatted text tab. Next, the character white highlight, we're going to highlight the 100 and enter character width. From the 100, we're going to change into 130. For under text case, we're going to use all caps text case, and now all caps, we don't have to manually change everything. So now we're going to the mask we're going to use a lot. Please remember this feature. So it's from the edit tool, and you go to this area from the general to the mask, and I will choose for halo. And we're going to change the size from 2 to 1. And we're going to hit OK. And then we hit OK, and which closes the editor dialog box. And we're going to click OK to close the symbol selector dialog. And finally we're going to click OK to close the layer property dialog box. And now we can see they are highlighted. So you have successfully created a label for the state of Florida that is well suited for its purpose. The halo ensures the text isn't lost on the map, but the light gray color makes it visually less prominent, so it doesn't compete with other features or labels. You will use a predefined style for label for the lakes. So now open the property for the major lakes layer and then click the label tab the same way. And then we're going to the label tab by default, and we're going to click label features for this layer, and the symbology button open to the symbol selector. And now for the symbol selector, scroll through the Esri style library, and we're going to click the label style reverse. So this one is for reverse. And then we're going to click OK. No unique style for label exists, so we're going to use the reverse style instead. So we look around with the ocean, but we don't have. So now we just use this one. And we're going to click OK and apply the changes, and click OK to close the layer property dialog, and the lakes on the map now will be labeled. And we click OK, and then we're going to zoom to layer. And now you see this big lake is called Lake Okeechobee. The Florida label moved position once the lakes were labeled. Dynamic labeling means labels will change position depending on the placement of other features in other labels and the size of the map scale. If you want to save your work, and we can rename it, and if not, we can just move on to the next exercises. Now we can just save it for now, and then we close it out and open the next one for exercise 9B. Okay, now we are opening the next one. So this map look as it did at the end of the previous video. If the cities labeled were restricted to the left of the points, there will be less cluster in the southern Atlantic coast area. So to fix that, we open the property of cities population 100 plus, and then we click the label tab. And we don't have to click because by default, previous video we work on that. Under other options, click placement properties. Other options, placement properties. And we're going to make sure the placement tab is active. So now we're going to click point setting of set label horizontally around the point. And we are going to do more here. So when labels are offset horizontally around points, the default, each possible position can be ranked. The graphic in the point settings frame shows the current setting. The feature is represented by the white square in the middle, and the numbers in the surrounding squares rank each position. 1 is the most desirable, and 3 is the least desirable. 3 right here, there are 2. The number 0 means a label cannot occupy that position. So now if we open it up, and we can see that have a lot of options here. In the current setting, ArcMap places labels above and to the right of features as long as they do not overlap other labels in any layer. All positions are allowed, although positions below and to the left of the features are discouraged with this setting. So now you want to center the label to the left of the feature. So on the Placement Property dialog, we're going to change location to open the Initial Point Placement dialog box. So on the Initial Point Placement dialog, we can just scroll down, and click the setting for Prefer Center Left, Prefer Center Left, Prefer Center Left, Prefer Center Left allowed, Prefer Center Left allowed. And make sure that your dialog box matches the graphic, and then we're going to click OK. So Prefer Center Left, all allowed. Good. Click OK, and then close the Placement Property dialog box, and then we click again to close them out. And this is better now. Most of the city names should be located at the left side of the corresponding point. However, at this scale, many of the labels overlap the point symbols, and it is not clear which point is Hollywood and which is Pembroke Pines. If we zoom in, we don't know which point is Hollywood, which one, and you can see that on top of it, and it's horrible. If we zoom in, maybe. Depending on the size of the ArcMap window, some cities' labels may still be in conflict with shipwreck features. You will make these final adjustments later. Then you convert the label to annotation. We're going to open the property of major rivers and click Label tab. Turn on the labels for the layer. So now rivers is right here, and we're going to zoom to layer first, and then we can see some rivers. And now we're going to turn on label features, and we can see the rivers are showing up, and we can see rivers here. And then we're going to choose the river label, and we're going to see its name, and everything is correct, and we're going to hit apply, hit OK, and we have to bring the window again, sorry, and we're going to the label placement properties, and then the label property dialog box is different from points, lines, and polygons. So on the placement tab under line settings, we're going to click the curve options because it's river, and then they have the curve options here. And click the curved option if it is not already selected. So for position, we choose above. And deselect the on the line, uncheck that, make sure the remove duplicate label is there, it's right here, and option this is selected, and we remain others as default. So now make sure it's curved above, and then duplicate labels, remove duplicate labels. And finally, we're going to hit OK. And what might you choose place label directly on a line feature? So the answer might vary. So topo line, elevation labels, latitudes, longitude label, and routes, we can do that. So and intersects or US highways, we put the label on top of a line feature. But rivers, you don't want to do that. And then we're going to